Life is about the eternal march towards change. Try as we might, we are powerless to stop it in any meaningful way. At times, we have the ability to alter our paths, or make choices that create different diverging realities for ourselves. One thing remains certain despite this, and that's that you will need to accept that your life, the people in it, the world you know, will change. It could be very little, it could be a lot. Art is expression. For a long time, games were dismissed as proper art because of the way that we interact with them. But we learn so much from games, especially now with the way that narratives are often intertwined with the game design.
The song is so loud. I have to silence it. The song. Why are you playing it?
Loss, change, corruption, greed, pain, suffering, joy, happiness, love, and more. In the span of dozens upon dozens of hours, you'll see or experience each of these emotions and themes throughout Cyberpunk 2077. V must come to terms with his or her situation, though it's not a simple hat trick. Over the course of the game, V fights the tide that is pulling them in, often and quite firmly pulling them under. But before they submerge, they're ready to keep pushing, ready to keep fighting. After all, would the promise of a cure, or a treatment, or an answer, or anything of the sort, that urgency to survive, cause you to behave any differently? Today we are talking about Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty expansion. Phantom Liberty was incredibly well received. I f***ing loved it personally. It was dark, gritty, beautiful, well written, and well acted, and even added some extra gameplay features on top of it all. Along with that 2.0 update that launched around the same time, Cyberpunk has become a full package in my opinion. Phantom Liberty has its own branching paths, which then adds on its own individual ending branch onto the ending of the main game, simply known as the Tower. Now I want to dive into the new Tower ending for Cyberpunk. Well, not new at this point, but new in terms of it being new to the game when this expansion came out. It's equal parts upsetting, dark, but in my opinion, nonetheless powerful, and has me still thinking about it long after I've finished it for better and worse. Based on that premise alone, it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway, I will be spoiling major elements of Phantom Liberty and this new ending. This video will assume that you're familiar with the plot of Phantom Liberty, so I won't be going to great lengths to summarize the plot in great detail, just the parts necessary to convey my points. With that said, should you not want to be spoiled, now's your time to vacate the premises. Are you still there? I meant now, like go, come on. I confess I really don't know what everyone thinks about the Tower ending, to be honest. From what I can gather, it seems that there is some controversy around it, at least in how it handles certain characters. It no doubt features what I would consider one of the darkest or bleakest endings for Cyberpunk in some ways, yet overall, at least when I played it, it still remained hopeful. Some people will find that they dislike some of the different ways it handles some characters. I want to provide a slightly different take. To be clear, the Tower is far from my favorite Cyberpunk ending. I would actually even go as far to say that it's probably my least favorite out of all of them, though I still appreciate what it does with the writing and the themes that are explored. Hence why I'm here now discussing how I find this ending sequence to be hauntingly beautiful and dark in a way that the other endings are just not. That doesn't make them any worse or better, it just means that this ending is unique in its own beast entirely.
I could get reprimanded.
Now I've played the ending twice, once organically, just playing the DLC, and the second time to take notes and capture some footage for this video. The more I have thought about it, the more I pontificated. The more I just sat and thought about the ending and its implications for each of the major characters, the more I found it to be an incredibly beautiful and poetic way to end the game. It's dark, bleak, but even at the same time, hopeful in how it ends the narrative of Cyberpunk. Or as the title of the video says, there is a dark beauty in how it presents and communicates its various ideas and themes. I know that's not going to be what everyone thinks, but I am willing to at least try and make that case here. The only way you'll ever access this ending is by ending Phantom Liberty in one of two ways. Both of them require you to save So-Mi. A device called the Neural Matrix drives Songbird to seek out your help at the beginning of the DLC. She claims this device can save her and V from their neural degradation via both of their various ailments. What you end up learning through the course of the DLC's events is that they were all orchestrated by Songbird to acquire the Neural Matrix, and that she lied when she claimed it could cure both of you as it can only help one of you. Whether you betray Songbird or not, eventually the result must end in Songbird surviving the events of Phantom Liberty, but ending up in the custody of the NUSA. We're then given access to a brand new ending path for the main game, where the NUSA president, President Myers, promises V they will use the Neural Matrix to cure them. You are contacted by Solomon Reed, where he helps facilitate the process. You can then go to the top of Misty's Esoterica, make the call to Reed to send transport, and you're off. This is where the new ending begins in earnest. So we're all on the same page, I'll briefly summarize the tower ending. This will likely leave some of the analysis portion where I go over the events a little redundant, considering I'm going to be summarizing some of it now. So I'll have the video timestamped, so if you want to jump ahead a few minutes to that analysis, feel free. But I encourage you to either have the ending fresh in your mind. I want to shout out to the writer of this article on Kotaku, Kenneth Shepard, who helped me remember the minute details that I summarized below, but I couldn't remember specifically. If V uses Reed's help, they can call him on top of Misty's shop, where you're given a few moments to text some of your friends and let them know you'll be indisposed for a bit. Afterwards, NUSA agents show up to bring V to a hospital to get the procedure necessary to remove the biochip, aka Johnny Silverhand, from their head. Before you make the call, a dejected Johnny pleads with you not to call the NUSA, not wanting to fully disappear, knowing this would mean the end completely. If you call them anyway, Johnny expresses disappointment. He had fully expected that you and him would part ways at some point, but he expected that he would at the minimum be shipped off somewhere on the net so as not to disappear completely. Shortly after saying a heartfelt and emotional goodbye with Johnny, V falls unconscious. Once V comes to, things immediately feel a little bit different. You awake in a hospital-like room to Reed. He looks slightly different too, but mostly how we remember him. He explained that the surgery was a success and the chip is gone, but there were some complications. V will live, but they no longer have access to any implants or chrome, in cyberpunk slang at least, beyond the basic ones, as any undue stress on V's neural pathways could be lethal. Also, V has been out for 2 years. They only just woke up now. Coming to terms with this reality, V is left alone. As V, you can call your friends or your significant other, in which case, you'll find various degrees of them all having moved on or moved forward in their lives. Carrie is touring, River is worse for wear, Judy is married and in Pittsburgh, and Pan Am doesn't answer at all. Eventually, you call your old friend Victor Vector, and he tells V to come by his shop. They must have gotten something wrong, he says. There's no way. You're unable to use implants? Come on. V leaves the hospital and returns to Night City. V visits Vic, who finds that things have changed at the clinic, where Vic now is partnered with one of the corps to keep it afloat, and thus in part, it drove Misty out. He unfortunately confirms what you already knew, that your mercenary life is over. V leaves the clinic as a client is demanding Vic's services now, and with that, V leaves and is then attacked by some guys outside of the shop. V awakens to none other than Misty lending them a helping hand, as V comes to terms with the fact that they can't be who they used to be, and instead of being that big bad mercenary that they always wanted to be, they'll just have to adjust to regular life. The final shot is Misty and V exchanging goodbyes as Misty is heading off, and V, without all of their implants, disappears into the crowd. Let's back up and talk about Johnny. Johnny Silverhand is the main hook of the story, so it would make sense that he would have some opinion on your choice to use the NUSA's resources to remove the biochip from your head. Unfortunately here, the end result is that Johnny would permanently disappear. He wouldn't be on the subnet or on some kind of chip. This would be his final stop. It seems a simple enough choice at first. I mean, if you had something in your head that was degrading your neural and genetic pathways to the point where your body would become uninhabitable at some point, causing you to die, you would similarly find it easy to just choose to save yourself, right? But I think this is the brilliance of this ending's writing, and just Cyberpunk's writing on the whole. You have a conversation with Johnny where he does everything but beg you to find another option. He knew this would be the end of the road for him, one way or the other, but not in the way where he would be gone completely. Johnny says you can find another way, one where you can both live in some capacity. It made me as the player earnestly conflicted in this moment. He's pleading, but not exactly begging. Johnny knows that you calling Reed will essentially mean he goes away forever should the surgery be successful. I found the dialogue here to be incredibly heartbreaking. Johnny seems genuinely hurt that you would subject him to this fate. He thought you and him had formed a bond of some kind, but he suggests that he was wrong, clearly. The way I always played Cyberpunk was that I did feel a certain bond with Johnny by the end. So hearing this, as the player character of V, that he felt betrayed in this way broke my heart. The whole experience of him being in your head meant something to him clearly, even if he didn't always communicate it directly. I was as disappointed in myself as Johnny was for making that call to Reed. Of course, I needed that fucking ending trophy, so I did it anyway. Fuck you, Johnny. I'm joking, of course. You can of course try to explain yourself to Johnny, almost like you're counter pleading with him, that there was no other option. It was always going to go this way, and you and him both knew that. He had to know that. You knew it. The dialogue here alone is great, but the performances are on another level. It's a credit to those performances, that of Keanu Reeves and Gavin Drea. I played as primarily a male V, so that's the version that I've heard, that they both convey a sense of anger, frustration, regret, understanding, and eventually acceptance in what is only a few minutes of a back and forth while you're boarding the AV. Johnny is scolding you for your choice in any way you decide to respond. All Johnny wants is you to apologize or seem regretful for not choosing your life over his, or for trying to survive. You can apologize to him if you want, which I always choose to, because even if Johnny and you don't see eye to eye much in the story at all, he does have a point. It meant something to V. It had to, at least in some way. At least I like to think that it did. He tells you you're just spewing words, and whether he believes them or not, V says he wanted Johnny to hear them. Johnny says that you and him could have been friends in another life, and he ponders why you weren't in this life. You can pick one of two options, which is to say you're either too alike or too different. In any case, the doctor tranquilizes you to begin preparing you for your surgery, and Johnny and V say their final goodbyes. Johnny asks simply,
Think we can find it in our heart to forgive each other?
Yeah. I can. You?
Think I can too.
I always choose yes, because I do think it ends the scene on a depressing but bittersweet note, as if to say there's no hate or bad blood between the two, and in some way they both understand the necessity of the scenario that they're in. You see, Johnny's fight in the end was not to take your body, even though that may be one of the game's ending options. Johnny's fight was to have his consciousness live on in whatever way it could, whatever way was possible. There is no more human response to the potential of your own demise than to try to bargain your way out of death, or to try to survive by any means necessary. I can't underscore how poignant this whole scene leading up to V going to get this surgery is. Again, the writing here is so moving and heartbreaking and raw. Keanu Reeves really sells Johnny's dismay and disappointment in V, and it made me question myself as V, even if I knew in some way that it had to be done. That doesn't mean I didn't hope this could have been different, of course it does. In a way, Johnny turns into kind of like a friend of yours, a sage, a mentor of some kind, if you choose to look at it that way. So of course I would hope that things could have been different, but they're not. Already, before we get into the actual meat of this new ending, the setup leading into it is enough to make you think you could maybe have done something different, or maybe you should have. There's long-standing consequences coming off of this choice, one of them being the loss of Johnny Silverhand permanently. Yes, all the other endings have you saying goodbye to Johnny in some way or another, but this is permanent. He's not gonna live some secondary life on the subnet. He's gone forever. You see what I mean? This ending is incredibly heartbreaking and bleak, and it only gets worse before it gets back on a more hopeful note towards the end. Now that's just Johnny's part of the ending, and the consequences of this are felt throughout as you continue.
I've got readings spiking. Strong emotions. Let's do this. We want your brain burden free. Never know how stress might affect it.
Think this is it, kiddo?
Guess. So,
Think we can find it in our heart to forgive each other?
yeah. I can. You?
Think I can too.
V has the surgery. They wake up in a hospital bed, a white room. There's a beautiful vista outside and the sun is shining through this room. Reed stands over you, and something feels off almost immediately about his vibe here, the way he's standing there. Reed looks a bit different too, but you can chalk it up to maybe he's in a bit of a different outfit than you're used to, the light's hitting him differently, maybe it's just been a bit longer than you thought. I mean, what, could have been a few more weeks at most than what you were told? You're able to ask Reed about Songbird and how she's doing, and he says that he's been cut off from updates for a while now. All he knows is that she's alive. Reed begins to explain to V that they can no longer use any combat implants, as the surgery was deeply invasive on V's nervous system, to the point where V can only handle their personal link and simple coprocessors, but any use of combat implants could kill them. And that's just a massive blow to our character. We spent the whole game modifying, building up, making them stronger. We accomplished our goal to save V, but at a big, big cost. If that's enough, or not enough, the biggest bombshell of this ending, what we spend the rest of this ending sequence reconciling with?
There's, one other thing. You were out for 2 years. It's 2079.
you're shitting me.
Believe me, I wish I could have said it was all good.
70 fucking 9?
And there you have it, it's 2079, Cyberpunk 2079, let's go, boys! We spend the next few minutes, really we spend the next couple hours reconciling with it, but we really spend the next few minutes reconciling with the fact that we've been out for 2 years. V struggles to get up and walk, and seems generally pretty weak. The life that we knew as the big-time mercenary V is just gone, wiped clean, and we have to accept it. But we can't just yet. You're allowed to reflect for a bit, right? There's an incredibly important line of dialogue you can get from Reed. If before he leaves you choose the option,
Reed? This story. We do the right thing. Could we have done better?
I don't know, V. And I won't try answering. Just plain afraid.
I think that's an incredibly telling and even perfect way to summarize the feelings that V and you as the player or me as the player would end up having as they see the consequences of them choosing to use the NUSA's help to remove the biochip play out. Reed is afraid to ask himself if they did the right thing or if they could have done better because he can't or doesn't want to see past the choices he's made. This is so relatable because in our own lives we are often so steadfast in our decisions, our beliefs, that we want to feel that we're only doing what is best and making good choices, that trying to peer beyond that is frightening. I'll probably say this a dozen or so more times, but the writing in this game, in this DLC, and this ending is just exceptional and sets a high quality bar. By the way, can I just say about this DLC overall, Idris Elba, brilliant performance. The way he just says he's just plain afraid of questioning if he did the right thing, the way that line is delivered is so powerful. And I just had to say that. My God, man. A masterclass.
I don't know, V. And I won't try answering. Just plain afraid.
You are left to your own devices now, with the objective to call any and all of your friends and decide who you should go and visit upon returning to Night City. You can first peruse the laptop and visit some company websites first, You'll find some backstory and history, of course, but there is a few updates you'll find interesting. Depending on if you told Jefferson Peralez the truth in Dream On, you'll get two different versions of Peralez and what policies he is pushing for or enacting. The coup that Hanako Arasaka wanted to orchestrate to oust Yorinobu is not successful, and Yorinobu remains in control of Arasaka. I love these little details that are sprinkled throughout this ending because it just kind of continues to build out the world and show the player that this is what's happened as a result of your choices, and that has continued to move on without your involvement in it. Once you're done with all that, absorbing what you can start calling your friends and trying to see who is available to meet up, to support you, or even just catch up over the holo for a little bit. There's going to be a theme here with all the characters we're going to touch on, since Panam was my love interest, and also, let's be real, the main character that we all simp for. Come on, let's start here. My feeling is that a lot of players will not like or appreciate the way they handle Panam in this ending, but we'll get to that in a moment. Reading Panam's texts, of which there are quite a bit, she is saying she needs you for something big, and you were out cold, so you never answered. The Albacaldos were leaving Night City at some point apparently, and she needs your advice on what she should do about it. Since we couldn't answer her or did not answer her, she basically flat out says, does V want her to stay? In any case, she continues to plead with V to answer her. Please, just let her know that he is still alive somehow. She eventually at some point gives up. V has 55 calls missed from Panam. And with that, you call her.
You have reached Panam Palmer. We're sorry, the subscriber is currently outside the service area. Please leave a message or call again later.
Panam, hey. Been a while since we saw each other. A lot longer than I thought or wanted. Guess you're away somewhere. Hope it's temporary. A waypoint, not outright nomadic flight. So, brass tacks. I had surgery. Docs just brought me out of a coma. Gonna live. New lease and all, but not on the greatest terms. It'd be great right now. Really great. If I could see you. You find a moment. Bring me back. Yeah? See you. Soon.
Unfortunately, Panam has moved on. I can see where some players may feel, comparatively to the other characters that we're going to talk about, that this seems a bit out of character or out of place for Panam to react in such a way where they're just completely done with V. I can agree to an extent. Out of all the characters and even my praise for this ending's writing, this is one of those parts where I feel it leaves things a bit too open. It lacks a certain amount of closure. Further, why would Panam assume that V has just purposefully been ignoring her? Why wouldn't she think that maybe something happened? After all, if you complete her storyline, regardless of romance, V has shown that they're the only person that is consistently there for Panam and supporting her even when they don't agree with her choices. A lot of people will criticize Panam's treatment in this ending, and given that every other character returned in some way, it does kind of feel a little cheap that we didn't get a final dialogue with Panam face to face, or at least, over a call of some sort. The most closure we get is during the credits sequence after this ending, where you get some epilogue-like dialogue from the various characters in the game, Mitch being one of them, where he basically tells you, do not try calling Panam again. He's glad that V is alive and doing okay, and that he appreciates him trying to reach out to her, but she had enough trouble getting attached to him, and it was even harder to move on.
V, hey! I'll keep this short, huh? Listen, it's nice you tried to reach out to Panam. It's good to know that you're whole, you're all right. But, well, don't expect her to return your call, no. And then don't try her again, if you can. When you disappeared, it took her a while to get back on her feet. She's not one to get attached, but when she does, the hurt comes damn easily. Now, I know it's not what you intended, so I'm counting on your understanding. You shouldn't do that to yourself, to her. So just don't call.
I don't love that we don't have at least a conversation with Panam that is more true to her character, or at least we don't have a chance to plead our case with her like you do with the other characters. But there is another way of looking at her actions, or lack thereof, that I actually think makes the way she was handled the only reasonable way to do it. Panam trusted V. She put a lot of faith in them to be different from every other person she has met, and they let her down. Panam clearly felt betrayed and lied to, and it took a lot for her to just move on and continue living her life. I mentioned before, we don't get much closure on Panam in this ending because of this, or our relationship with her. But as is one of the many thematic elements in this ending that I have grown very fond of, at least in theory, at least the thought of, is that it's true to life in some way. Unfortunately, we don't always get those moments of closure or true reconciliation with people in life. We have to live with the fact that some people will just never be a part of our lives anymore, and more will not want to reconcile or hear what you have to say, nor will you want to hear what they have to say. That's a constant of life and something that we'll all just have to learn to live with. As Mitch tells you,
So just don't call.
don't bother calling her again. She's moved on. And frankly, you should too. Unfortunately, you won't get that moment of reconciliation where maybe you make some form of amends, but you go your separate ways anyway. You just won't. Expecting the world to reorient itself back to its origin point before everything was different is a sentiment that we all share. But unfortunately, as the title of this final quest says, things done changed. There is no what could have been, just what is. Your closure in this ending, across all characters, you get to live, to see another day, not in the way you hoped, but in the way that it happened. That's powerful stuff. And the truth is, we don't want any of this to happen, of course. We don't like that we can't talk to Panam again, just like we don't like that we can't talk to somebody again in our real life, or we can't let them know that we've changed, or that things are different, or that they had a misunderstanding. You just don't get that sometimes. They don't want to hear it. And truthfully, you can't blame them. They don't owe us anything. At least not always. Unfortunately, going off of that, there's not going to be any good segue from that or any of these sections. So if you need to sit in that for a moment, feel free to pause here. Otherwise, we're going to talk about the next character on our list of calls we can make. I mean, the next one has to go a little bit better than Panam, right? Right? Reading Judy's messages, she tried to call us 21 times. She wanted to hang out, but clearly we were unable to respond or get back to her. We call up our girl Punchin' Judy. She's shocked to hear from V after all this time.
No fucking way.
Hey, Jude.
V, where you been, June?
NUS clinic. Had surgery. It's a long story.
Must have been a long operation, too. Gruesome. Bloody.
Spent most of the time in a coma. Unplanned, obviously.
Wow, V. Thought I'd never see you again.
Should be dead, I know. Good news is, finally found a way to excise the biochip.
What? How? Telling me Silverhand's out? You're gonna remain yourself?
Forever and ever. 100% V.
V, that is beyond Nova. So damn nice to know some stories actually get a happy ending.
Dealing with some drawbacks. I'll never fully recover. I'm alive, sure, but got no idea what comes next.
Shit. Are you serious? Really sorry, V. Hope you figure it out. Get yourself set up again.
Sounds like you're angling not to be part of it. Mad at me for disappearing, right?
Nah. I mean, sure, I was, but finally decided you'd have pinged me if you could Now it's just... V, I'm in Pittsburgh, and I'm married. If you ever hop to the other coast, come on over for a beer, but now, really can't help you.
Shit. Miss so much.
You know, if you hadn't vanished, don't know that I'd ever have left NC or met Bianca.
Maybe I should have ghosted sooner.
Come on, you know it's not like that.
Well, bye, Judy. Really hope our paths cross again someday.
Me too, V. And good luck.
The conversation is very brief, but Judy is happy that V was able to get the biochip removed. When we mention we won't ever fully recover, Judy says that she knows V will figure it out somehow and bounce back from it. Her tone comes across as passive, as it becomes increasingly clear through the course of the conversation that Judy has no intention of being around to help V or to be in V's life the way that she was earlier. You see, Judy is now married and living in Pittsburgh. V disappearing is the push she needed to leave Night City behind completely. Leave that life that she had behind. Clearly she has some sort of affection for V still, and she is open to getting a beer with you if you're ever back in town, but she has no intention of coming back to Night City, even if it is just a visit. In my male V run, of which I played this ending through primarily, I found myself reacting more positively to the conversation with Judy than I would have, at least I could imagine I would have, if I had romanced her with my other character. Similarly with Panam and the other characters, we will learn and continue to learn that life moves ever onwards with or without our involvement. Judy wanted to leave Night City at the end of her quest line, and she did just that. She got married and started a whole new life. Leaving the trauma of what happened in Night City behind, if there's any contention we can have as V or as the player, it's that Judy has no intention of being a part of our lives anymore. Likely believing that returning to Night City in any way, or becoming close to V again, would bring her back into a life she had gotten used to leaving behind. That's a major gut punch. Imagine waking up from a coma of 2 years, finding out you had some kind of impairment that would preclude you from doing the same types of things that you used to do. You call one of your close friends, your best friends, or even a family member to meet or catch up, and they're naturally happy to hear from you, of course, but as V remarks via one of the dialogue options available, it would seem that Judy is angling to not be a part of your life in such a direct way anymore. Imagine that was your family member, or a friend of yours. That would hurt. Judy built a new life for herself and is happy. For me, it's hard to be totally mad or upset, even if it is a little hurtful that she doesn't plan on being involved with V. But again, it's another example of the life that we left behind, and the life that we could leave behind should these things happen to us. I can imagine that Judy romance players will find this conversation even more heartbreaking, as V can hint that she is ready to be able to handle whatever comes next because she knows Judy, her sweet Judy, is by her side, even ready to drop her plans to go back to Night City and go where Judy is in Pittsburgh. Then Judy drops that she is now married to a woman named Bianca. Another emotional gut punch to V that you have to imagine keeps breaking her down further and further as she is still coming to terms with being less than what she was. She asks V not to interfere with her relationship or her new life, and that she is sorry. It's hard to really reckon with all of this, as V is a reflection of us, the player. So I can see players who romance V finding her actions as inexcusable or even upsetting. You put your heart into this person, your whole soul, and they moved on in what to you seems a short amount of time, but to them, it's a lifetime ago. I continue to say this is far from the happiest or best or brightest ending of the game. Still, I keep coming back to it in my mind. I can't stop thinking about how thought-provoking all of the ideas presented here are. I don't believe that you have to like the way Judy or Panam or any of the other characters behave in order to still find the writing compelling and even true to them. We can constantly, over and over again, make the argument that the various different choices they make are not true to who they are or even out of character. No doubt you or I could make the case for why something a fictional person did is out of character for them or makes the writing less than adequate in our eyes. But we all must remind ourselves that while that can be true, there has to be some nuance there, right? What I mean by that is that I'm certain that I, and you by extension, maybe even people you know, have done some things that some would consider uncharacteristic of who we are. But to us, we have, at least at the time we made said decision, rationalized it as the best option that we had available. Judy could have waited for you for 2 years, or investigated where you went off to. I mentioned with Pan Am, it does seem strange that your friends, like Pan Am, would just collectively shrug their shoulders in anger that you ghosted them for 2 years when you haven't done that up until now. But if you really think about it, it's hard to fully blame them for how they handled the situation. Judy clearly tried to wait for V for a while. If you romanced her, it implies she waited at least 4 months in her text messages to you. So to say she just ditched you is not entirely fair. We can talk about how she could have made more of an effort than just calling to find out whatever happened since you just disappeared, but that's neither here nor there. There is no what could have been, just what is. Carrie Uridine. I think it's Uridine. Anyway, Carrie is in the middle of a tour. He's back at it playing live shows. His call comes off as very warm and friendly, if not feeling a little absent-minded, as he is in the middle of being a famed musician on his new tour.
And that's why I say, you know what? Fuck him sideways. Hang on,
Someone grinding your gears again?
Holy fuck. V? Or is it Johnny?
Won't be hearing from Johnny anymore. Ever.
You mean he's...
Yeah.
Shit. Weird. Losing someone a second time like that.
Sorry about that, Carrie.
Yeah. Well, still fucking glad you're around, yeah?
And what about you, Carrie? What's up? Career going strong?
Actually, fuck yeah. Thanks for asking. Sitting on the Crystal Palace as we speak. Played a gig yesterday, had this fucking view of Europe. Shit. V, wish you were here.
Yeah. Well, not really in a partying mood right now.
Okay, Spill. Thumbs up.
Really want to talk face to face.
Oh. Sounds serious.
Think we can meet up?
They can't now. I'm on tour. It will be a while. But if the hollow's enough, I'm all yours.
Well, just woke up from a 2-year coma.
Gee, shit. Can you not, June? I'm on a call. Is that not clear?
Yeah, Care?
Fuck.
Do you
yeah.
hear what...
Yeah. Did you say coma?
Yeah, got surgery. That's why I'm alive. But... didn't work out. Not completely.
Fuck. Damn, I'm sorry. Sounds like shit. You need anything? Eddie's maybe, or,
Need a friend, Care. Really rather not be alone right
What the
now.
hell did I say, Yuki? Let him fucking tune. I don't need to hold her hand, as long as it's all harmony.
Carrie?
V. You know I'd love to help. I really would. But I just can't swing it. Playing Paris tomorrow, then Kyiv. If not for the tour, I'll be flying your way already.
Looking like everybody needs Carrie. Wants a piece of you.
Yeah, it's crap coincidence, you know. Lots going on. Shit luck.
Yeah. Shit luck. What do you think? Gonna see you again?
Shit, of course you will. Listen, as soon as I'm back, come on over. We'll go wherever you want. Give me a couple of months. Or... okay, four tops. Deal?
Sure. Deal.
Yeah, listen, V, in the middle of something, kinda. Look, I gotta go. They're calling me back on stage. But, yeah, you wanna shoot the shit later? Hit me up on the hollow.
Carrie is open to hanging out with V or getting together in a few months after his tour is over, but because he's so busy, he just can't get up and leave right now or meet up. While this is far from the most hurtful or upsetting of a call, especially given the two that we just talked about, it does kind of smack you in the face a little bit still as the player. Of course, we can't really expect Carrie to drop everything to meet up with us or catch up, but V makes an emotional plea to Carrie, saying that he just needs a friend. Someone to remind him that the world he knew might be over, but he still has that promise of a tomorrow where he didn't prior. Now, unfortunately, Carrie can't do that for him or her at the moment, and like I just said, it's not really fair, I guess, to expect him to drop his whole life for a friend he thought disappeared a while back. But he's moved ever forward in his life. I would probably compare it to when you call your friend and they seem busy but stay on the phone anyway, absently being preoccupied with everything and anything else, and you're just kind of like, do you need to hang up the phone, dude? And I'm like, no, it's fine. I think it's fair to expect that we could easily repair our relationship with Carrie if we continued playing as V after the credits roll, but his commitment to his own life and own problems has always been a part of what made Carrie the self-obsessed, if not self-aware musician that he is. I don't really feel like there is much more to say about Carrie's portion of this ending because this feels like a relationship that can be salvaged, unlike with some of the others. We all know a guy like Carrie, someone that we could not speak to for years or even know what they're up to, and then call them up out of the blue, or they call you up out of the blue, and it's like no time has passed. No matter what, he promises in a few months he'll have some free time to catch up. And for now, that's just going to have to be enough.
Listen, as soon as I'm back, come on over. We'll go wherever you want. Give me a couple of months. Or, okay, four tops. Deal?
Sure. Deal.
I'm gonna be upfront with you guys. I think River is a decently written character in the game, and I get why you or somebody else might love him, though I've never really liked River generally. Overall, it's not really anything in particular, I guess. Originally, I had a whole section here about River, and upon listening back to it a few times and kind of recalling my interactions with him in the game, it felt a little harsh, and I didn't necessarily believe that it was really that accurate. The best way for me that I can describe River is he feels somewhat disconnected from the main plot or pull of the story. It's not inherently a bad thing, but I think that's partially why I never found myself invested in his character as much as I was with the other companions. They all have their anchors in the main plot or the story that give them significance to at least V and where they're at that point in the narrative, where River is just kind of a secondary or even tertiary character that comes along at some point for the ride. Which is interesting in part because I would argue he has one of the darkest quest lines in the game with varying outcomes, and it's actually quite compelling. If you've played it, you know what I'm talking about. I don't even have to describe it. Further, and this is just an aside, not everyone's going to feel this way, but I don't like how much the writing implies that you really should be romancing River if you're a female V. He's really into you. Like, really. His family is, and my V is a hardcore lesbian. My female V is a hardcore lesbian with a girlfriend who has never given any hint that I would have been interested in River. I don't know if this is just a problem with River as a character, more so RPG romance in general. You have ultimate agency, of course, but it still feels like they wrote it to say, hey, this is River. He is romanceable for you if you want it. What do you say? Feel free to correct me if that's wrong, and if you don't agree, but I don't recall other characters having the same treatment, and if they did, I didn't clock it, so maybe I'm the dummy for even bringing it up. Anyway, the main point is, I don't really hate River, but I don't really jive with him either. It's interesting because calling River is probably the only call you'll make where he's very openly hostile before you even have a chance to say anything.
No damn way.
River, it's me.
Me who?
Well, V, obviously.
Is it obvious?
Stop futzing around.
V I knew wouldn't have waited 2 years to return a call. What'd you expect to hear after all this time?
Dunno, maybe something like, wow, glad you're not dead.
You're
Sorry. Would've let you know if I'd known I'd be gone for that long.
Okay. I understand. An accident. Anomaly. Shouldn't blame you for it. Been a little touchy lately. Sorry.
Yeah, it's alright. Be pissed if I were you too.
V, it's not just about you. Problems with me, too.
What's going on?
I needed money for Randy's rehab. So I did a deal with Trauma. Sold him a pile of police secrets. Dirt on whoever they wanted.
Clearly didn't have any other options.
How could you possibly know that?
I know you. Would have done it differently if you had a choice.
I don't know. I'd like to believe that, but...
Fuck, River. Now I feel bad. Can we meet? Help each other out?
Too late for that.
What? Rather not see me?
Look. I'm not the man you used to know. Couldn't stand to look you in the eye. Not you. Not... Fuck am I blabbing for? I gotta go.
Wait a sec, River.
He's pissed at you, you know? His friend disappears from his life for 2 years. V can of course clear this up for him pretty quickly, and River quickly stands down and is happy to hear from V and know that they're okay. He laments that he might have chosen better if V was around and proceeds to tell you that he needed money to pay for Randy's rehab, his nephew, so he sold NCPD secrets to the trauma team. V tells River that he clearly had no choice. River refutes this from V, as he claims V has no way of knowing whether that was the case or not. But V can kind of counter that by saying that he knows River well enough to know that if he had a better option, he would have taken it. River is just not convinced of this. V offers to meet with him, and whether or not you romanced him, he refuses, saying he's not the man that you used to know, and he doesn't know if he could even look you in the eye. River seems to be the only one of your former colleagues and friends that has regressed emotionally and in the rest of his life. He's tortured by the fact that he sold secrets and dirt over to Trauma Team, and he's just not proud of that. Part of what angered me first as a person and as a player about this is the implication he makes that it's somehow my fault or V's fault that he made a shitty decision. Sure, you can say that having a friend's advice could have made things different or changed things, caused you to make a different choice, but at the end of the day, it is your choice as a person with your own agency and free will. When that anxiety and anger dissipated a little bit for me, I saw a man that was broken by circumstance and his own inability to provide for his family the way that he needed to. In his position, we maybe would have made a similar choice. When I looked at the situation from that angle, I viewed it much more sympathetically. I viewed River much more sympathetically, because I can imagine a man racked with guilt, but also feeling the weight of responsibility. Now, to add an interesting wrinkle to River's situation, River almost acts as a perfect parallel to V. While you both don't suffer under the same exact circumstances, fate has put you both at a crossroads in your respective lives. You're not the people you once were, and maybe won't ever be again. Whereas River has had all this time to come to terms with this fact, V has not. And as a consequence, you have two sides of the same coin. River is not looking for reconciliation, or for help, or redemption. In fact, he outright refuses to be consoled or have V come and visit. But V is looking for help, and unfortunately River is not in the place to provide anything other than a simple, "Glad you're alive." He abruptly hangs up, but not before he says he's not really sure what he's doing talking with you. And that's the last we hear from River Ward. It doesn't feel good to watch your friend go through it, or going through it, especially knowing that they went through so much without you. Part of me wants to hold on to the idea that River will come around, and perhaps V and him can help each other come to terms with their respective fates, and even accept what has been, and move forward from that. Further, I watched the variation on this where if you romance River, the conversation is even more emotional, where V pleads with him, saying she wants to meet and that they could chat. River still refuses to do so. He tells you, sometimes things don't work out. That's how life is, and he's really sorry. Finally thanking V for being a bright spot in his life at one point in time. I may not be a big fan of River overall, as I said at the outset, but it's hard not to feel some sympathy for him. And again, to understand the current reality V faces, you get gut punch after gut punch. Again, everyone has moved on, or has lived life without you. And River specifically represents the V that could be should they not accept what they are or who they are becoming, and recede into regret, wishing they could turn back the clock and change the variables that led to this moment. However, there is no going back, just forward. Let's recap a bit. This has been a depressing time so far. We're calling all of our friends, hoping one of them is able to meet up, chat with us, maybe even console us a bit. Maybe we can catch up. None so far are immediately available, and any romantic entanglements are put on hold for the time being. There is one bright spot here, and that's Victor Vector. He's the only one that agrees to meet with you, telling you that they must have gotten your diagnosis wrong. There's no way that you can't use implants anymore. They don't know what they're talking about. He says to come by the clinic, he'll check you out. For a moment there's a glimmer of hope.
I'm only gonna say this once. I'm in no mood for pranks. So if you don't...
Hey there, Vic.
V? Is it really you?
You don't know how good it is to hear you.
It's good to hear you too, V. But how are you... Why?
So, this netrunner I met got me involved in this FIA op. They promised surgery, a cure, using the runner's tech in exchange. And it worked. But not without complications. 2-year coma for one.
God damn it. That's a chunk of life there.
Yup. I mean, they saved me. New lease on life, but Chrome's a no-go for me now. Even simple muscle boosters.
Is that what they told you? Quacks, I bet. They overlook something. I just know it. Come see me, V.
At least I can still count on you being there for me.
Huh? What do you mean?
Already hollowed someone. Seems not all my relationships stood the test of time.
People move on, V. But well, sometimes some of them come back.
Think I stand a chance of being normal again? My old self?
Of course you do. I've got new tech. Does wonders.
World changes, moves on. But Vic's ever the last reliable resort.
Yeah. I'll see you, V. You know the address.
Maybe Vic's right. Maybe they got it wrong. I mean, he's the best of the best, and he wouldn't lead you astray. Now, it's a long shot, but you figure it's a good way to just meet with an old friend regardless. So you head back to Night City. There's a weird energy here as you're in the Delamain back to Night City. Whatever decision you made in the Delamain side quest is reflected here too, which is cool to see, but more than that, the energy is similar to if you have ever returned to, quote-unquote, the old stomping grounds, or a place that you frequented when you were younger, only to see how different it has become in the time since you've been there. The difference here being that to you, it literally was just yesterday or a few weeks ago, and coming to terms with this new state of the world is fascinating and seldom something I recall being explored in other games super often. We get to Vic's clinic and find that it has completely changed. Misty's Esoterica is gone, and in its place, a receptionist who treats V very coldly. You head down to Vic's and it is a relief to see your old friend. Things look more or less the same, save for some Zetatech branding all over and even on Vic's getup. Nonetheless, it's refreshing to see your old friend as he reminisces about the bottle of liquor that you got him, remarking it's the same bottle that he knocked back with Jackie some odd years ago. You can ask about Misty, but he doesn't offer much in the way of details. You sit down and he begins to scan your body. Vic asks how it feels to be back amongst the living. You can pick a few options, how all you did was in vain, or how Vic is the only one of your friends you have left, or maybe something more optimistic where you acknowledge it's been hard, but at least you're back. I chose to reflect upon how V's life is basically gone. and all of his dreams and hopes are out the window.
So tell me, what's it like to be back among the living?
I lost, Vic. Lost in life. All my plans, dreams.
You survived.
Can't function in my environment, so what's it matter? Me from 2 years back? Gone. Never gonna be him again. You know what I mean?
What are you trying to say exactly?
Think we could have chosen better? All of us?
No.
Huh. No hesitation.
If there'd been better options, we'd have picked them. Or convinced ourselves they weren't better at all.
Vic, sensible as ever, and with achievable dreams. I never could settle on those.
You'll learn.
If you say so.
It's a relatable feeling of life passed by, feeling like you'll not have the experience you wanted or hoped for. A lost dream you'll never be able to experience. I've been continuously alluding to how this ending is really a reflection of life. It's a powerful reflection of how we are constantly evaluating our own lives, whether actively or not, finding new goals or reasons to just keep going. There will be times through everyone's life where you'll have to learn and accept that events and experiences have passed you by, with no way of returning. It's similar to what I mentioned earlier, in the same way that we have to accept that we just may not have certain people in our lives anymore at different points. We have to accept the same about our own goals. They need to be adjusted to fit new circumstances or even new situations. Here we can ask Victor why he sold out to a corpo, and he tells you the simple truth. They kept offering, and then he gave them an insanely high price. And to his surprise, they said okay, and it was a number that he would have been stupid to refuse. He's reluctant to explain what happened to Misty and why she left, but expresses how much he misses having her around. The tide changed too much for Misty, clearly, and that's why she left. Vic hopes that it all works out for her, for him, and for everyone. V can then ask Vic a similar question he asks Reed earlier on in this ending. Does Vic believe they could have chosen better? Unlike Reed, Vic responds with no. He says, if there were better options, we would have picked them, or convinced ourselves that they weren't better at all. It's in stark contrast with Reed, who is afraid of thinking too hard on that question. Vic is steadfast in his belief that they made the best choices available to them, and there's no sense in dealing with the what-ifs. In this dialogue, we begin to see why Vic was so much more amicable and willing to meet with V. He doesn't resent him as some of the other companions that we've had might, or doesn't feel any type of way about the choices V has made, because he believes that V, or the player, us by extension, made decisions that lined up best with our goals. Unfortunately, Vic confirms V's diagnosis. They are deaf to implants and there's no way around it. If you tell Vic you didn't have high hopes coming in, he remarks that you'll find something else to aspire to dream for, and it'll take time to settle on something. But someday you'll forget why you wanted anything else.
Can't say I like that,
First time I've seen anything like this. Your cortex seems to have turned deaf to implant signals. Maybe reinstall the neuroport firmware. No, that'd... Maybe switch to binary signaling. That's a risk of shock. Life-threatening
Said
kind.
you could do something, Vic.
I was wrong. I'm sorry.
Please don't worry, Vic. Didn't come with high hopes anyway.
Not good. You have to believe there's something out there for you.
Self-delusion? That's what you advise?
No. I just want you to accept your reality. You've changed, yes, but you're alive. Look at me. I had to adapt too. Still doing what I most love, though.
Should I start aiming lower too? Could be the key to happiness.
It's not easy settling. With time, though, you realize you no longer remember why you wanted it any other way.
Oh. What if I want to remember?
Wish I knew what to tell you, kid.
Vector, come on quick. I ran into trouble. Need surgery. It's are you running late?
I can't now, Tyler. Drop in tomorrow.
Drop in tomorrow.
This is my friend. No affiliation to the firm. Come back later, please. It's important to me.
You got it wrong, man.
Friend of yours?
Customer. I only have customers now.
Vector? Hello? I'm waiting.
Got a patient, Vic. Don't worry about me.
Ugh. V. You can't know how sorry I am.
Vector.
Hey, swing by to see me anytime, yeah?
Of course. Of course I'll drop by.
Close the door on your way out, okay? I need to look at Tyler's pressing problem here. Guess you landed in some kind of shitstorm.
It's another step in V's understanding of his current predicament, accepting that things will never be the same, but you'll still get to live on. When we suffer a tragedy or a traumatic event in our own lives, we have to learn to accept that it happened, live with it, and in any way that we are able, overcome. It's not easy, and it's usually not fair, but it is the circle or cycle of life, and we move ever forward. After this conversation, another patient comes in the middle and demands attention from Vic, and thus you must leave his clinic. Vic tells you to stop by whenever you want, and in that small way, it lets V know that all is not without hope, and that just because things done changed doesn't mean that they can't forge forward with a new life, or you can't find something new to look forward to. Upon leaving Vic's clinic, V is accosted and assaulted by two guys. They want money, and V is not looking to oblige. V is knocked unconscious briefly before being woken up by Misty's voice.
V? But you... What happened to you?
Misty?
Easy now.
She looks different, and she is wearing Jackie's old jacket. She remarks that V looks the same, but maybe a little bit different, perhaps a little wilted or worse for wear. The conversation with Misty is more reinforcement of the themes presented throughout the rest of the ending to this point. Misty remarks that she is happy to see you, and while she doesn't fully know what happened with the relic, she inherently understands that whatever it was, it diminished V's capacity to defend himself, or to fight back.
Just got thrashed by two lame-ass thugs.
But why didn't you defend yourself?
Couldn't. Long story.
Oh, is that the relic's doing?
Missed you so much, Misty. Though it feels like I saw you last Tuesday.
Just 2 years, V. Blink of an eye for the universe. It must be hard for you, I know. But hardships pass too, as all things.
Probably got it right. Just darn hard to believe right this second. You saw what happened. Can't even stand up to a couple of random dipsos. Where do I go from here?
You'll learn to live like us regular folk. Avoid dark alleys, run when you hear gunfire. Not much more to it.
That your bread and butter?
Welcome to the world of the faces in the crowd, V.
Our V here is at the cusp of acceptance and understanding that there is no going back. Something that Misty here reinforces. She explains to V that they'll have to get used to just being a face in the crowd. Avoid dark alleys, run when they hear gunfire, basically learn to live like regular folks. Misty is in a different mindset than V is, where she had years to look within and understand the city life, and Night City in particular is just not what she wanted anymore. V is catching up with a 2-year absence, trying to make sense of it all, making sense of things is what we do as humans, and some of us are granted the time and grace to discover and look inward on where we are and what we want to do and what's next. The rest of us continuously struggle to figure it out. Even so, Misty says that she has lost herself before.
My favorite herbal store burned down one day. Went there to buy some white sage and saw a charred mess instead. It was then I realized nothing's the same anymore. Jackie was gone, You'd up and ghosted. I decided to close the esoterica on the spot. I couldn't help other people find balance if I'd lost it myself.
Nothing lasts forever. Gonna recover your peace of mind, Misty.
Probably. Then I'll lose it again, recover it. But most likely, it'll always be different. A piece built on something new.
She asks you a simple question. Do you know what did it for her? Why she made the decision to leave Night City? None of the answers that you are given to respond with are correct, as she claims an herbal shop she frequented had burned down one day. And with that, she realized things were not the same. Jackie was dead, V was gone, and her favorite herbal shop burned to a crisp. Misty tells you that at one point she couldn't find the balance in herself, so how could she bring it to others? This is not the most uncommon idea in media or life. The idea that you can't love if you don't love yourself, or you can't help others if you aren't in a state to do so, you know? I think what they made to communicate here to V, or the player, is this idea that you are going to feel lost at times in your life, even right now. But you'll also find your center, recover your sense of self, but you'll inevitably lose it again. Recover it, lose it. I mean, Misty says so directly. She'll find peace, but she'll lose it, and then find it again, and so on. We're always going to be building new foundations off of something new, because there's no such thing as a true stasis in life, even if it can feel like that for some periods of time. V feels like their life is over, and there's nothing out there for him. Misty reminds him, if you played Corpo, this is what she says, is that it must have felt that way when Arasaka booted him out, or in the aftermath of the Konpeki Plaza heist, after Jackie's death.
Doesn't matter. My life's like I was a minute ago. Flat on its ass.
Like it was when Arasaka booted you out? Like after Konpeki? Like it probably will be again? You might see this as odd or extraordinary. But life's about changes. Unwelcome ones, too.
But despite that, V found a reason to keep going, to carry on, to find a new path out of their predicament. FIA offered V a job at Langley, and even if it's not what V wants to do, it's an example of the options that are available to them, should they choose to take advantage of any of the ones that are presented. This is the point, I think, where V begins to accept that they can't change what has happened, but that maybe they can find a new purpose, something to want for, or to go for. Maybe V could become a fixer and have a version of the same life that they wanted, or maybe go somewhere new. The point here is to say, there's a tomorrow, and then there's a day after that. You can lament what has come to pass or forge ahead. At this point, I probably sound like a broken record, endlessly repeating similar thoughts and themes, but I wanted to make sure to highlight all the different ideas and themes as they are communicated and as they came up in this ending, and as they repeat and then continuously reinforce each other. As Misty finally goes to leave, she helps V up, and the camera zooms out finally. Now, if you don't know this, or I hope you do if you're watching, every ending to Cyberpunk 2077 ends with the camera moving out from first person and into third person. I know CD Projekt Red said that they had more third-person cutscenes planned for the game, but they didn't have the ability to include them because of some resources or budget limitations, or even just the general focus being on the first-person experience. The way I choose to look at it is that when I make my character, my V, in the beginning of the game, I am transported into their world and life. I am V for the remainder of the experience. So when the camera zooms out for the final cutscene of the game, it's an acknowledgement that it's over, and your interaction with your character is complete, and they're now unleashed into the world in whatever capacity they are there, without your input. Now, for this ending, the thing that did always bother me about it slightly when I first played it and then secondary playthrough as well, is the way that they kind of generated or changed the created character that I made completely to this generic blob of a man. You could have gotten a preview of this earlier if you looked in the mirror back in the hospital, but if you saw this for the first time during the scene, it's a bit of a jump scare, like, whoa, who's this man? I know the reason that they change your character up a bit here is that they don't have implants anymore, and that is a crucial element to playing Cyberpunk, is having implants to enhance your character's playstyle or abilities. Without them, they're, as Misty says, a face in the crowd. That said, I don't think he looks anything like the character I made, even without implants, but I guess perhaps that's the point. They don't have an identity anymore. Misty asks V one final question. Where is the pendant that she gave him all the way back at the beginning of the story? You remember the bullet pendant that Misty gives V early on in the story, after their brush with death? The bullet that almost killed V? There are so many ways to interpret what that pendant means. Does it represent survival, resolve, overcoming the odds? Regardless, V remarks that they must have lost it, and Misty tells him, don't go looking for it. It doesn't matter anymore. And that final line summarizes the entire through line of this ending. Your life before where you are, it doesn't matter. At least not as much as it used to. Again, you look ahead to a possibly unpleasant or pleasant future, but there is no going back.
Till we meet again, I guess.
Hope so.
Oh, V. Do you still have that pendant I gave you?
Huh. Must have misplaced it.
Don't go looking for it. Doesn't matter anymore.
V disappears into the crowd. If you remember earlier, Misty suggested that V would probably just become a face amongst the crowd, and while that scared V at the time, he ultimately did just that. There's a light smirk that comes across V's face as he turns around and walks into the crowd of people. I see it as a quiet acceptance of the situation. V stepping away is him beginning his new life, wherever that takes him. At this point, we have covered most of what I wanted to talk about. However, we do have one more thing to go over here, and that's the little epilogue-like video calls you get in the end. They're slightly different than they were in the other endings, and I do think it's worth talking about and examining a little bit. Rogue lets you know that it wasn't long ago that many were thinking of a concoction to name after you, a drink, kind of like Afterlife always does, considering you're a legend amongst the Afterlife crowd. She lets you know that you can, of course, always come by and you're very welcome, but warns that the more you visit, the more your legend will dissipate. I can imagine a scenario where a V who is not able to do the things that they used to visits Afterlife, if not for any other reason than to be present amongst the legends, only to see their own legend fade the more they show their face. If V does decide to continue and stay in Night City, it's clear a new legend will need to be formed in the place of V's legendary merc status. I would compare it to in real life if you decide to change your career paths. I can relate this to me, someone who tried for a long time to get into video production, but my whole work experience up until a few years ago was all retail. So to get to where I am today, doing production full time and even having time to make these YouTube videos sporadically, I had to forge a new reputation and acquire all new experience so I could be trusted by peers to work in this field. So I can totally relate to this feeling, and it's why I think Rogue's words really struck a chord with me. As somebody who feels like they had to work to get where they are, I can imagine then that my retail reputation, although I don't care about that as much at this point, has probably faded. But that's okay, that's what I wanted. In this scenario, it may not be what V wants, but it is what's going to happen. Takamura, holy shit, you're probably wondering where the fuck has this guy been? Takamura is an interesting character. He feels like someone who is overall, underneath all the corporate bullshit, a decent man. Again, if not for the fact that he's sworn his allegiance to Arasaka. He seems bitter that you didn't ultimately help him stop Yorinobu. He doesn't know what to say to you, so he tells you the words of an old samurai that summed up his thoughts perfectly. Good, strong medicine is bitter to the mouth. Hanako is dead, and they failed to repel Yorinobu and his allies when they tried to capture Arasaka Tower. He's been framed as her murderer and has been hiding out for the last 2 years. Takamura describes his life as being now similar to the trash heap he found you in originally. His final words, "You were very strong medicine, V." Takamura represents our past. He is bitter and angry. Though he doesn't seem vengeful, more he wants V to know that this is what has become of him, for better or for worse. If V continues to reminisce and agonize about days that have come to pass, he could end up like Takamura, lamenting on what could have been and not trying to live for that future. Granted, Takamura has good reason to be bitter. He feels like his whole identity is tied to Arasaka, and he feels betrayed by you, his friend. As I mentioned earlier with Pan Am, it's hard to accept, but we are unfortunately not always going to have closure in our lives with certain people, or a clean break with everyone. We won't always have that reconciliation with people we used to know, and ultimately, that's just gonna have to be okay. It's a part of life that we have to accept. And Takamura is just another example of this very fact, an example of somebody that V could become, should they not choose differently.
I know you are in Night City, and in good health. No more biochip in your head. Congratulations, V. Much time has passed. I did not know what to tell you. I needed the words of old samurai. He expressed my thoughts. Good, strong medicine is bitter to the mouth. When you disappeared, I and Hanako-sama confronted Yorinobu, his allies. We tried to capture Arasaka Tower. We could not. They were strong. Hanako-sama is dead. I am called her murderer. I have been hiding for 2 years. My life is now the trash heap where I found you. I wish for you to know this. You are very strong medicine, V.
I touched on Mitch earlier in his call to V in the credits when we talked about Pan Am earlier, so I'm going to skip by him and we'll go to the next call. Solomon Reed. Earlier I mentioned an exchange between Reed and V. Could we have chosen better? It seems Reed is tortured by what happened with you, with Songbird, so much so that he can't help himself but question if you did the right thing. And even if you did, it's supposed to hurt you on a deep level. That's how you know you did the right thing, or you have regret from doing the wrong thing. Reed is struggling to discern which one it is. Where Vic is certain that you did the best you could with what you had, Reed will always wonder if you could have done better, even knowing he did what he thought was best at the time. Not to quote an old song from The Fray, but wait, are they even still around anymore? Hold on. Oh, well, it seems they're still active in some capacity. Anyway, back to the song that I want to quote kind of vaguely. Sometimes the hardest thing and the best thing are the same. Kind of cliche and tropey, I guess, but it illustrates what I'm talking about here with Reed. Vic, we hear from one last time. He feels bad that you didn't get to catch up completely, and he wonders if you would be down to get together to have some beers, watch a fight, and look fondly on the new lives that you both have. Though the catch is, even Vic is leaving Night City soon. The clinic is being relocated to Frisco, and what he wants is a proper sense of closure on his time in Night City. With you. He asks if you would be up for that. Considering you didn't get the chance at proper closure with any of the other characters, with the exception of Misty, I suppose, it would be a good chance to at least do it with one person. Vic is clearly also reflecting upon the old days, but wants to say goodbye and move on. It won't be the same, but then again, nothing ever is. When I started working on this video, I didn't think I would have much to say about the characters and writing, but the more it went on, the more I wrote, the more it felt essential to discuss each interaction at length. With all of that said, I can confidently say, just from my own point of view of course, I find the tower ending to Cyberpunk one of the darkest, but also most deeply beautiful and poetic endings in the game. It leaves you with a sense of sadness, frustration, but even hope as V disappears into his or her new life. I said this at the top. This is far from my favorite ending of the game. In fact, I would think I would put the star ending as my top if I had to pick. As a Pan Am simp, you know? I mean, come on fellas, you know. I didn't know what to think when I saw this ending. Before I had gotten to it, a friend of mine commented on how it was heartbreaking, and that it broke him. I could now see why. Loss, regret, despair, resolve, resilience, and even survival all take center stage in this ending. It provides, I think, one of the most realistic depictions of life in just an hour or so. Nothing stays the same or lasts forever. You'll never find peace unless you allow it to find you. Forging forward even when it's hard. Accepting you'll never have closure in some parts of your life. Everything about that are things that I have experienced in different ways in my own journey through this world. Things I'm still going through. So many people come and go, whether they're there for a long time or a short time, and ultimately, so many things will remain left unsaid or just not explored. The trick is that we are trekking through our own experiences, coming to terms with what is and what isn't, what we can control and what we can't, and whether we can live with it or not. For V, can they live with the fact that Johnny is gone forever? Or maybe their former flame doesn't want anything to do with them anymore. The life V wanted is over. Can they make a new one in the remains of that one? Do they start anew? All of this is so uniquely human, and it's why I can't help but applaud CD Projekt Red's writing quality across Cyberpunk, and even in this ending to the game. It's not perfect, of course, as we discussed, but it still overall hits all the emotional beats that it needs to. I don't like all of it, but that's the strength of a good ending to a story, when we are able to sit here and debate its meaning, whether it's good or bad, or if there was potential that's unrealized. We won't all agree that this ending is executed well or even well written, but I'm not necessarily trying to convince you it's good or bad, more to have explained why it spoke to me so much and how compelling I found the ideas it attempts to convey. Seeing V go through grief in the span of an hour is something we can all relate to. We all have different mechanisms or go through those stages differently at different speeds. When my father died in 2016, I went through all of those emotions. Not sure whether I could have done something differently, or maybe if I had said the right thing that one time, I could have prevented it or put it off just a little while longer. V in the same way has to accept that it's been 2 years, that their friends are mostly gone, and they can't even return to the life that they used to know because they are physically incapable of doing so. It's a hard pill to swallow. I had to accept that things would never be the same, just as V does. The message here is to keep going. V has the option to rebuild their life from a new foundation, and as do you, should you ever need to. There's always time to chart a new course, or to make different choices. You just have to want to. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have those weak moments, or those moments where you're going to want to dwell on things, or be upset, or sad, or feel like all is lost. As Misty said earlier, you are going to lose your sense of self at times, but then you'll find it again. Just as I'm telling you, it's going to be okay, but the world that you knew is gone, and each and every day you have to wake up understanding that reality, that you can only move forward. Unfortunately, we can't go back. After all, a thing of beauty will never fade away. With that, my friends, I think it's time I wrap things up here. If you got this far, thank you very much for watching. This video was honestly a labor of love, and I am appreciative of you taking the time to view it, or comment, or like the video. Even if you didn't watch it that long, and you didn't get this far, that's okay. I appreciate it nonetheless. If you subscribe to this channel from this video, that's awesome too. But this was purely a passion project of mine since I experienced the entirety of Phantom Liberty. I hope to see you in the next video, whenever that may be, and until then, stay safe, happy, and healthy. At least 2 of those things if you can't manage all 3.